Hello, welcome back to this session 2 of Module 4. In the previous session of Module 4, we have seen the climate change risk and the impacts to heritage resources. And at this session 2, we are going to see the predictive management of risk and the impacts of climate change. So we will explore the predictive frameworks and the management responses to climate change, risk and impacts on World Heritage Sites. We will include to see the risk prediction frameworks, site-level adaptation strategies, and early warning system. So in the session 1, we have seen how human activities may result to climate change and what are the threats and risks as well as impacts of climate change to heritage resources. But at this session, we are going to see how can we now predict these risks and how the impact of climate change on World Heritage Sites can be managed in a way that will reduce the risk to the current heritage resources and for the future or sustainable use of the World Heritage resources. So, what does prediction means? Prediction involves anticipating future risk, using scientific tools and data to identify potential future risks and vulnerabilities. So, how to predict? What are the methods that are used to predict the impact of climate change to World Heritage Sites? One of the ways is to use climate models to simulate the future. These models will help us to anticipate the future risk of the climate change in the World Heritage Sites and be in a good position to manage them so as to reduce that impact or damage that it may cause to the heritage resources. And another way that we can use is satellite images, whereby it captures large-scale changes of the particular area, and it will help us to come up with a great way to manage those particular risks. Another method is risk assessment studies, which will help us to understand who and what is most affected. So this will help us to prioritize and know where exactly the effort should be kept as far as management is concerned. The other method is Geographical Information System, GIS. All of these systems will help to collect the geographical information of a particular heritage site, and it will help to understand the risk that are about to happen and how to manage them. So, why should we predict? What is the purpose of prediction as far as the impact of climate change on World Heritage Sites is concerned? So, the first purpose is to identify vulnerable heritage sites. So, those heritage sites that are at the higher risk of those climate change impact will be identified, and the strategic measures or correct measures will be taken to rescue them. So this is one of the importance of doing prediction. And another purpose is to plan early intervention. When we predict the risk that are about to happen in the future, we'll be in a good position to plan for the early intervention, both financially as well as strategical, so as to come up with solutions to handle those impacts or challenges that will be brought with climate change. Another reason to predict the climate change risk and impacts is to reduce the future damage. So if we can be able to predict earlier what will happen in the future, we'll be in a good position to reduce the damage, and that will help us to save a lot of money and a lot of energy and cost as far as management of the climate change impacts is concerned. Another importance of predicting is to understand which heritage sites are most at risk. This will help to prioritize where the effort should first go so as to reduce the impact of such particular impacts of climate change in that heritage sites. Another reason to predict is to support informed decision making, whereby the policymakers as well as the management committee of the heritage sites will be able to sit and make an informed decision that will be supported with the real data from the prediction process. And the other reason is to prioritize conservation action, whereby the conservation action should be going directly to those areas that are highly at risk compared to the ones that are in the middle of the risk. So how are we going to manage the climate change impacts to that particular heritage sites? So this management will focus on reducing the damage and increasing resilience of heritage sites. So resilience, that means the ability of the site to withstand and recover from climate change damage, but also the issue of adaptation, whereby the heritage sites will be created in the environment that will be able to adjust to the climate impact that will be facing that particular heritage sites. But under this managing climate change impact, the other way is to mitigate, whereby we reduce the causes of climate change so that the impact also will be reduced. So a site will withstand and recover from damage when natural strength, biodiversity, good management, and human support work together. So it's not a single strategy, but it's a collaborative of strategies to enable this climate change impacts to the heritage sites to be managed well in a way that it will reduce the damage, but also it will increase the resilience of that heritage sites. So what are the key management strategies? The first one, as we have already discussed, is the adaptation, whereby under adaptation there is strengthening of buildings, improving drainage system, using climate resistant materials. So this climate resistant materials will help the heritage sites to be able to adapt to those changes or risks that are about to happen or they have already happened to that particular heritage sites. But also improving the drainage system during floods will help to reduce the impact of threat to the particular heritage site's environment. But strengthening of the building will help this heritage resources building to withstand the pressure that will be brought with floods or any other extreme weather events to that particular heritage sites. Another key management strategy is risky preparedness. So the disaster management plan should be kept into place, early warning system, emergency response strategies. All of this together will help to prepare ourselves for the future risk that is about to happen. So the third strategies will be monitoring, whereby there is regular inspection of heritage sites, tracking environmental changes. As we have said, in the first strategy is to create the environment for adaptation. So if the environment is well created to be able to resilient or to withstand that future risk of the climate change, the part of monitoring will help now to inspect those strengthened, for example, strengthened buildings, a regular checkup of those buildings, regular checkup of the drainage system if well okay, and if there is anything that is not okay during monitoring, that is where there is regular maintenance of such particular resources so as they can have a higher capacity to withstand during that pressure. But also tracking environmental changes, whereby we all know that the environment change every day, every time. So being in a good position to track those environmental changes and adapt those changes will help to reduce the impact of climate change toward that particular heritage sites. And another key management strategy is community involvement. This is very important, whereby educating local communities, involving them in conservation activities, and supporting them and motivating them to be part and parcel of management activities or management strategies of a particular heritage site. We all know that, as we were discussing in the first session, we saw how human activities really contribute highly to the climate change risk. So if the community involvement will be at a good place to be done, that means the community will be in a good position to reduce all those human activities that support or that influence the climate change risk. So if the community will be well informed through education, through training and motivation to help them to involve themselves in conservation activities, this will really help to manage the challenges or the impact of climate change to heritage sites. We all know that community involvement is one of the key management strategies, because community may be in, if they collaborate in a good way, they can be a good pillar for making the management strategies to be successful. But if they will not be involved, if they will not be in collaboration with the management plans and efforts, then the efforts that will be made with the management of the heritage sites will be of less impact if the community involvement will not be there. So another key management strategy is sustainable tourism, whereby we should include the strategies like limiting visitors' number in a particular heritage site, which will help to conserve the environment and reduce land degradation, but also environment pollution, but also reducing or but also promoting environmental friendly tourism practices, whereby tourists will be the supporting key people to make sure that the environment is well conserved, and all the tourism practices support climate change risk and impacts. So sustainable tourism, this is one of the key management strategies, which will involve limiting visitors' number as well as promoting environmental friendly tourism practices in such particular heritage sites. So, example of management action that can be done to reduce the impact of climate change in a particular heritage sites will include building seawalls or drainage system for coastal heritage sites, but also using climate-resistant material in restoration and building or repairing of the heritage sites resources, relocating movable heritage items from high-risk area to low-risk areas, but also early warning system for extreme weather events that will help the management to take the required efforts or required measures when the risk happen to that particular heritage sites. So let's see the case study of the Great Barrier Reef, which is in Australia, and this is the world's largest coral reef system, stretching over 2,300 kilometers along the northern coast of Australia. It comprises of 2,009 individual reefs and 900 islands, supporting huge diversity of marine life, corals, fish, mollusks, turtles, seabirds, and marine mammals. So it is both a UNESCO World Heritage Site, but also a critical ecosystem providing economic, cultural, and ecological value. And that's why we have decided to take this as a case study of climate change restoration. So what are the climate change impact of this Great Barrier Reef? One of the impact that have already affected the Great Barrier Reef include coral bleaching, oceanic acidification, sea level rise, extreme weather events, synergic stresses like pollution, coastal development, and overfishing combined with climate stress increase reef vulnerability. So these are some of the risk and climate change that are affecting Great Barrier Reef currently. So the current state of the Great Barrier Reef has lost around 50% of its shallow water coral since 1985 due to bleaching, cyclones, and crown of the thorn starfish outbreaks. So the northern Great Barrier Reef is particularly affected by higher sea temperature. Currently, the efforts are ongoing to monitor, restore, and adapt the reef ecosystem. So, what are the conservation measures and management efforts that are happening currently to Great Barrier Reef? One of the efforts that is happening is Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority, whereby it implements zoning, fishing restrictions, as well as pollution control. But also, there is coral restoration projects, which is helping the coral reef to grow resilient, to strain and the nurseries and the transplanting them. But also they reduce greenhouse gas emission by critically preventing future large-scale bleaching. And the other management effort that is happening at the Great Barrier Reef is community and indigenous involvement, whereby traditional knowledge contributes to reef stewardship. There is motivation and education provision and training around the local community that are living nearby the Great Reef Barrier. So together with those efforts that have been taken to Great Barrier Reefs, these are some of the lessons to take for effective management of our resources, especially in Tanzania, like Zanzibar Island and the other heritage resources in Tanzania. So what are the lessons that we can learn from the effective management of Great Barrier Reef? One of the lessons that we can learn from it is the Great Barrier Reef is an iconic ecosystem and under severe threat for climate change, whereby there is effective management which combines scientific monitoring, restoration, community engagement, and global climate action to safeguard it for the future generation. So if Great Barrier Reef have done all of these efforts, ourselves as Tanzania, we can learn from Australia what they have done, including starting to provide in education and training to the local community around those heritage sites that are in the threats and at the higher risk, but also to use scientific monitoring and restoration strategies for the purpose of effective management of the risk and the impacts of climate change to our heritage resources. So this marks the end of session 2. We have already seen how prediction can be done in a particular heritage site, but also how the prediction will help to reduce the impacts and the risk of climate changes, but the effective management strategies to reduce the climate change impacts to the heritage sites environment. And for the last session, we will discuss the role of the World Heritage Convention and climate change, and we will see what they are doing and what is currently to be done as far as global action to climate change and the risk to global heritage sites and resources. Thank you so much.
Chuo Kikuu cha Sokoine cha Kilimo SUA.